What's up, everyone? Josh here. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the first parties, Sony and Microsoft specifically, with it being a new year, 2020, and with both of them gearing up to launch, brand new consoles this fall. I thought it would be a good time. Some would say the best time to talk to you guys about the first party slate from both of the publishers, with them going into the final year of their current consoles before the new ones come out. What are some of the devs working on? What can we expect? What do we hope to see? What are some surprises that we wouldn't see coming? So I think it would be a good idea. We're going to start with Sony today. It's interesting to note that just in the last couple weeks, they've actually taken completely different, polar opposite stances on their first party lineups. So what I mean by that is Sony has said and confirmed that there are going to be games released that are only playable on the PlayStation 5, which is, a traditional way of looking at things. That's the way that, the consoles have worked, up until this point. But Microsoft is taking the exact opposite approach. We're saying that, for the first, Phil Spencer has said for the first 12 to 18 months, Microsoft Series X, Xbox Series X will not have any exclusive titles to that console only for the first year to year and a half, meaning that anything that is released from their first parties within that first 18 months or so will also have a version compatible or a separate SKU released for the Xbox One X and One S, to kind of keep the player base and the platform on a more unified front, which is a kind of a new way of thinking. Both, are interesting in their own ways. Again, Sony's a little more traditional. Microsoft seems to think that this is going to be obviously a good route for them to take. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But with that being said, I wanted to start off with Sony today. What are their first parties working on? And I'm talking about the big first party studios, the Naughty Dogs, the Sucker Punches, the Bends, the Polyphonies. There's like Sony San Mateo, which does a lot of support work for like some of the other bigger studios and things like that. I'm not going to go over those. We're talking about the big dogs, no pun intended. So without further ado, let's jump right in. The first one that I have my notes here. The first one that I have is actually Sony Bend. So they released Days Gone this past spring, to a critically tepid reception. Sales seem to be okay. It's actually number 10 on the PSN's most downloaded games of the year of 2019 list that was just released. So it seems to be doing fairly well critically. Before that, they released Golden Abyss in 2012. So, there was a 7-year gap in between those two titles. I don't know when their next title is going to release. I know it's obviously not going to be a PS5 release or even a launch window the first year game. There's just no way it's going to happen. It's the safe bet with it being a top 10 game for Sony this past year. You would imagine that it's Days Gone 2. If it hasn't already been greenlit, they're already in pre-production, I'm assuming, as far as that's concerned. But I wouldn't expect it before 2023, 2024. So that kind of counts them out as far as anything that we would see around the launch window. After that, we have Guerrilla Games. So this is the most interesting one to me. Horizon Zero Dawn came out in 2017, spring 2017. Before that, they did Killzone Shadowfall, was actually a PS4 launch title in 2013, so it was 4 years between those titles. My big bet on, and I'm certainly not the only one to think this, but my big bet is that their game, whether it's a Killzone spiritual successor / reboot, or a Horizon Zero Dawn 2, will be the marquee launch title for day one PS5 users. By the time the PS5 launches in October, November, it'll have been a roughly 3.5-year gap between Horizon Zero Dawn 1 and whatever their next game is. If it's Horizon 2 or a Killzone game. I'm kind of leaning a little more towards Killzone, to be honest with you, whether that's an open world Killzone game. That disappoints some people, but I just think that a Horizon game from their A team might need maybe another year or so, or even 2 years longer to incubate. And again, that's just my gut feeling. I don't have any substantial rumors or facts to back that up. But Guerrilla is quickly becoming that top tier developer in the Sony first party stable. So I think that if you are looking for a marquee day one, this is why you should buy a PS5. That's going to be for PS5 exclusive. That's going to be the game. I would love for it to be Killzone, or excuse me, I would love for it to be Horizon and not Killzone. I think that world that they've built is just so ripe for a sequel, obviously. And so I'm hoping that is the route that they go. The story of Aloy and everything. For those that haven't played it, I don't want to spoil it, but it is definitely one of PS4's best exclusives, and I would love to see it. I think that we have a real shot of seeing that title. There's a rumor floating around in the last couple of days that Sony's PS5 reveal is going to take place in New York City on February the 5th, which is only just a couple weeks away. If they, there's some third-party games, Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, the Vikings-inspired Assassin's Creed is rumored to be there, as well as some other titles. But it would be awesome to see that from them and really pop off with a banger and solidify this is the reason why you should own PS5 on day one. Is this beautiful open world experience that can only be played here. I think that would be really, really cool to see. The next one up is Insomniac. So this is Sony's newest acquisition into the first party studio. They worked with them on a second party basis for the longest time, up until I believe it was Sunset Overdrive that came out in 2013, 2014 to the to the Xbox consoles. But Sony, after the phenomenal success of the Spider-Man game that came out in 2018, they decided that hey, it was time to bring them into the fold and make all of their games exclusive at that point. Again, Spider-Man came out in 2018. With the critical and commercial success of that title, you have to imagine that game sequel, Spider-Man 2, was greenlit right off the bat, probably even before Spider-Man 1 launched. So you would have to imagine that they are deep into development of that title. I don't think that it'll be this year. If we're going off of a 3-year cycle, we could see it in 2021, maybe spring 2021 would be cool to see. Or even, early fall. I could see that being like a September, October game, obviously right in the heart of that fall season. I'm super, super pumped. I think that they have a great framework with what they've created. This was, for all intents and purposes, this was the superhero game to, really show that it can be done well, that superhero games don't have to be just licensed shovelware. You take your time, you create an original story, you create the characters that you want to create. They played with the established lore of Spider-Man in interesting ways, and I think that proving to Marvel that it can be done well, that they basically have carte blanche on the sequel, on the next title. So I think that is going to be really, really cool. And I can't wait to see it. I don't think that we'll see it at the reveal event, and I definitely don't think that we will see it, unfortunately, for probably, again, late 2021, if not early 2022 at the earliest. The next one is Media Molecule. So this one, it was a little tricky for me. They released Tearaway in 2013. That was by a smaller team within Media Molecule, excuse me. Their game Dreams is coming out in a month. I'm recording this on the 15th of January. I think it actually comes out on the 15th of February or the 14th. So just about a month away. It is finally being released. Before that they did Little Big Planet 2. It's been almost a decade since they released a from their main team, they've released a game. I I really hope that Media Molecule knocks it out of the park with this. I hope it is a critical and commercial success. I have no doubt that it will find its hardcore fans and that we will see cool stuff posted on Twitter and Reddit and things like that on, the games that people create within Dreams. We're already starting to see that. But I don't know if that's going to equate to them selling enough copies to justify the extremely long development cycle of this title. I really am worried that, if this game doesn't do well, that, they could be the next Sony studio to close down. I hope that doesn't happen because they are extremely talented. They make very quirky games. They make, they're very imaginative and very obviously creative. Um, but sometimes that doesn't always equate to a success. And you have to remember, this is a business. As much as we want to talk about, games are art and, games are, an expression of that and a passion. And while those things are all true, at the end of the day, Sony is a business with shareholders and they are out to make money. They are out to make the most amount of money. Just like if anybody was in business, if you own a business or you wanted to get into business for yourself, whatever it might be, your primary goal is to make the most money as possible. Um, that's just the way that it works. That's capitalism. And so, anyway, point is that I hope that the game does well enough to where they stick around. With that being said, I have no idea what their next game is. I have zero idea when it could come out. Probably a mid to late PS5 generation game. So, geez, you have to imagine 2024, 2025 at the earliest. Um, who knows what it could be? I don't think anybody would have imagined after Little Big Planet, a 2D side scroller for lack of a better term, and then Tearaway, which was a 3D action adventure platformer. That they would have anybody would have guessed that it would have been Dreams that would have come next. So I can't even begin to speculate what the next game is. I just hope that they're around long enough to actually make it. So Naughty Dog, not probably, it is their best developer. It's probably the best developer in all of video games. They released Uncharted 4 in 2016. They had a smaller team complete Uncharted Lost Legacy in 2017. And in the spring of, I believe did they delay it till May 2020 for Uncharted Part 2, or excuse me, The Last of Us Part 2. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't expect anything from them around the launch window at all. If you're going off of Uncharted 4 to Last of Us Part 2, that's a 4-year gap. So we might see something in 2023, 2024, whether that's, The Last of Us Part 3 or maybe a brand new IP. There is actually a rumor going around. This is from this past July. It says that they are working on a new steampunk first-person shooter, which that alone gives me pause because that's not what they're known for. I think if you're Naughty Dog, you stick to what your bread and butter is, which is third-person platforming action adventure games. So that alone makes me, take this rumor with a big pinch of salt. But who knows? I'll continue. It's called Stray's Cross, and it's for PS5. Again, who knows if that's actually the case or not. My guess is it's not. I found that rumor on Reddit floating around as I was doing, prep for this video. So who knows? I don't know what they're going to come up with, but they are the masters of, storytelling in video games and character development and creating characters that you just bond with emotionally and that you care about. So that, I am excited to see whatever that they do next. Again, whether if it's Last of Us Part 3, whether if it's, I don't think that they're going back to Uncharted. I think that Sony will probably hand that franchise off to another Sony developer. But whatever it is, I'm all in. I'm excited. They've earned the benefit of the doubt. But obviously we're talking about, the PS 4's last year and PS5 launch window and launch titles. I don't see anything from coming from Naughty Dog, unless they've split up into another team that we didn't know about and they've been working on a game in secret. Is it possible? Sure, but I don't see it happening. The next one up is Polyphony. So for those that don't know, Polyphony only makes Gran Turismo games. That is all they've done, and that is all that they will ever continue to do. In recent years, in the last generation or so, the shine on that franchise has dulled a little bit with with Microsoft coming out with Forza. For the longest time before then, Gran Turismo was the premier, at least on consoles, the premier racing sim title. A lot of people think that since Forza has really come out, from I believe it was Turn 10, if I'm not mistaken, they've really taken that mantle and created a more complete and a better racing sim franchise. So again, that's why I say that Polyphony has maybe lost that crown. But with that being said, the hardcore PlayStation fans and the hardcore, obviously, racing sim, that Venn diagram that kind of overlaps is huge, and that's what's kept this developer kind of releasing title after title. Gran Turismo Sport launched in October 2017, so by the time the PS5 releases, it'll have been 3 years since that title launched. They do take a long time. They are perfectionists over there at Polyphony. I didn't write his name down, but I believe it's Yamayuchi. He is kind of the mastermind behind that franchise. He is a well-known perfectionist. He wants everything done, to the best, the highest degree possible, the highest level of polish. So I could see it coming out this fall with it being a 3-year cycle, but then again, it wouldn't shock me if we didn't hear anything about it until 2022 or later. My only caveat to that is that for some of the older gamers out there, I'm 30, I'll be 33 here in a couple weeks. If you remember back to like the PS2 and the PS3 launches and the reveals of those at E3, racing sims were a way to showcase what hardware could do, from a technical standpoint, and what they could do graphically, the realistic looking cars and the realistic photorealistic environments. And I remember with Gran Turismo 3 A Spec on PS2, I believe it was the first game that the light would filter through the trees as you were racing through the track, and the light and the shadows would kind of cascade over your car in a realistic way, and that was a way for them to kind of show off the emotion engine that kind of powered the PS2. So I could see, with that being said, I could see Polyphony and Sony showing off the next Gran Turismo at the PS5 launch reveal to kind of give us the next iteration of what the PS5 can do graphically. Whether that's ray tracing is the big buzzword recently in the last couple of years. I'm not technical enough to really understand how all of that works, but I could see them doing that to, hey, this is what we can do from a graphical standpoint, from a technical standpoint. And so I'm interested to see if Gran Turismo will make an appearance at the PS5 launch, again, rumored for February 5th. Who knows? I would love to see it, and so I don't know if it'll launch at the PS5 launch or if the game will come out alongside the PS5 launch. It wouldn't shock me if they put a date on it that it did and it ended up getting delayed a year or more. But yeah, I mean, I say that it's probably a toss-up 50-50 that we do get that at, around the launch window, whether that's launch day or maybe within the first couple months from the PS5 coming out to market. The next one is Sony San Diego. They will release another MLB The Show game in the spring, like they always do. That franchise and that title is going multi-platform in 2021. That's a whole nother story about the MLB exclusive rights. This game is considered by many one of the best sports games, period. Right there alongside the NBA 2K series. So who knows? They actually had a rumor floating around that there was going to be a smaller team within San Diego that was going to basically take the Uncharted franchise that I talked about earlier and create um, the next iteration of that. Again, whether it's a reboot or a sequel, which I think would be really cool. I won't spoil it, but if for those that have played through the ending of Uncharted 4, you know that there is a very easy setup for where the series could potentially go for the next one. So who knows if that actually is going to be the case. But that's interesting. If nothing else, they'll keep releasing MLB The Shows every year from now until infinity. Sony Santa Monica. So they released in 2018 the reboot slash sequel to God of War. Ascension, just titled God of War. It was basically a completely reimagined Kratos, and Norse, mythology and things like that. So, with the commercial and critical success of that game, you have to imagine that a sequel is in the works. I don't know anything other than that. Maybe 2022, 2023, that would give them 4 to 5 years to create the next title. I don't expect to see anything from them anytime soon. I don't think that they'll be at the launch event. I don't think that they'll have a game at in the launch window or even within the first 12 to 18 months. So they're probably hard at work on the next title, but if and when, or not if, but when we see it, I think it's probably a pretty far, far. What am I trying to say? It's a far way out. It's a long way out. The next one up, though, is Sucker Punch. So this is interesting because they are releasing probably PS4's swan song, which is Ghost of Tsushima. It's coming out, I think all they've said so far is that it's coming out summer 2020. I am interested to see how this does, butting up right against that rumored October release date for, this seems like an August game for sure. Give people August and September to play it before, the PS5 really kicks off in that rumored October release. The game looks beautiful. I'm interested to see, what they bring to the table. That setting is not entirely unique. We had games like Sekiro that came out this past year that won the best game at the Game Awards. And so I'm still interested. I really, loved and continue to love their titles. With that being said, with that game coming out, this year, it was rumored to come out in the spring, but, with Naughty Dog needing more time for Uncharted, or I keep saying Uncharted, for The Last of Us Part 2, that kind of pushed Ghost of Tsushima out, to the summer window. Before that they did, I'd love to see him come back to the Infamous series. I think that game is so special. That series is so special. The second one is probably the best one. That one and took place in New Marais. The first one, was laid the groundwork, and then Second Son, which took place in Seattle, was very good. But the characters and the story was a little lackluster, but the gameplay was really tight. I would love to see them, go back to that series and really, do it up for the PS5 if that is what they end up working on after Ghost of Tsushima. But even if they do, you can't imagine that game would come out before 2024, 2025, right around that midpoint for the generation. So don't expect anything from them anytime soon. So I got a couple things mixed up. I just realized I said Sony San Diego was working on the rumored Uncharted game. There's actually an untitled San Diego studio that is, I think, separate from Sony San Diego, but within the city of San Diego, if that makes sense, that they are actually doing the development of, or they're working on the development of that title. They have I have a quote here from an interview that I saw. It says, quote, this high visibility project is being developed in collaboration with a major Sony development studio, the job listing reads. Sony is also specifically looking for someone with, quote, previous experience shipping a third-person action game, end quote, and, quote, 5+ years of systems design experience in either single or multiplayer 3D action games, end quote. So that was a job listing that was posted, for this untitled San Diego studio. So, with, again, Naughty Dog moving on from the Uncharted series, they said that they don't want to develop, or they're not going to develop any more of those titles. But with it being such an iconic PlayStation franchise, doing well critically and commercially, Sony, I don't think, wants to let that go. So it seems like they might be um, hiring for the next Uncharted game with this, again, untitled, unnamed San Diego studio. One last thing. Additionally, a recent post on Reset Era revealed that the LinkedIn profile of a PlayStation employee living in the San Diego area mentions an unannounced project being worked on with Naughty Dog and Santa Monica. This lends further credence to the possibility that a new Uncharted game is in development, maybe, Uncharted 5, or again, a reboot of some sort. So who knows if that ends up being the case or not. As with any rumors and speculation, take it with a grain of salt, until it becomes official. Again, guys, I know this was kind of a long video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, though. I just wanted to give my 2 cents, my thoughts on, the state of Sony's first-party studios. I think the big one, again, if there was probably going to be two, I would say Polyphony with Gran Turismo, and whatever Guerrilla Games are working on. Hopefully it's, for me personally, I hope it's I'm getting my studios mixed up. I hope personally that it's Horizon 2 and not a Killzone sequel / reboot, but who knows? We'll see. Again, the rumored PS5 reveal is for February the 5th, so that's just over 2 weeks away, 2 weeks and a couple days. All should be unveiled there, so who knows. If you ended up liking this video, though, please give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I appreciate, the love and support that you guys have shown me so far. But yeah, let me know. Tweet at me. I'll leave that in the comments below. But, and drop it in the comments. What do you guys think you're going to see? What we're going to see, as far as the first party studios are concerned? Are there any studios that I left out that you wanted me to talk about, or that, I glanced over or glossed over? Leave it all below. I'll read and respond to every single comment. Again, hit that subscribe button. Until next time. Oh, and I wanted to say, before I log off, next week I'm going to do a video on Microsoft's first party. They've been doing huge things in that realm, gobbling up first party or developers into the first party studios. So that'll be an interesting video. But that'll come out sometime next week. But again, yeah, until next time, you guys stay safe, and I will catch you on the flip side.